on top of juggling her career as a mom and her professional career, she's the author of a best-selling book. The book is called In an Instant, and she writes in the book about her husband, Bob Woodruff. Now, it was on the news, I'm sure many of you know, but the book talks about Bob Woodruff's near-fatal injury. He's also a reporter. He was in Iraq. He was severely injured, and this injury left him with a traumatic brain injury. And in the book, she shares all of this story with you, and I'm sure she's going to talk to you about it. But she didn't stop there. She wrote another book, and I love the title. It's called Perfectly Imperfect. And last month, yet again, she developed another novel, her first fiction novel, and that book is entitled Those We Love the Most. We're going to have a short, please cue up the video on Lee Woodruff.
After years of dedicated reporting, Bob Woodruff had finally fulfilled a long-time dream. In December 2005, he was officially named the co-anchor of ABC's World News Tonight. He seemed to have it all, a loving marriage and 4 beautiful children. On the morning of January 29, 2006, Bob was reporting from an Iraqi tank that was on patrol north of Baghdad. In an instant, just 26 days after starting his new job, Bob's life would take an explosive turn.
The phone rang, and the voice said, "Lee, this is David Weston, who's the president of ABC News," and my heart sort of stopped. You know, I knew that this wasn't good.
Bill, we have some breaking news to report. Our co-anchor of World News Tonight, Bob Woodruff, and his cameraman, Doug Vogt, were injured in an attack.
Following developments on the condition of ABC News anchor Bob Woodruff.
Bob and Doug were quickly evacuated to a both have head injuries. They are in the hospital.
All we really know is that both are in serious condition.
When Bob first arrived here, he was in a semi-comatose state. He was not following commands. He had one particular rock that was about $1/2 in size that completely traversed from the left side of his neck to the right side of his neck, and that was sitting right on top of the carotid artery. Certainly the surgery he had done in Iraq saved his life. The real question was, what kind of individual we'll have at the end of this period?
I wanted to know, how he would feel about me, if he would recognize me. And so I looked at Dr. Armanda and I said, will he still love me? And he said yes. He said that he hasn't had a patient yet who didn't wake up and love the people that he loved before. And he was right. He was always right. So I walked in the room, and I parted the curtain, and Bob was sitting up in bed, and he turned to me and he said, "Sweetie, where have you been?" Just like that.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And I think I rushed over to him and, gave him a big kiss, and then I thought, okay, where do I begin?
You want to see just nice? It's right here. Just like
Ball.
Eyeball. You taught me.
Watching the brain put itself together has been an incredible miracle.
Belt buckle.
What?
Belt buckle.
Belt pearl.
Belt buckle.
Belt buckle.
Belt.
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 No, Nora, you're confusing. Belt.
Belt.
Buckle.
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 Belt.
Buckle.
Buckle. Belt buckle. You taught me. Belt buckle.
Diamond.
You did it.
Diamond.
I can't really talk, but I can certainly dance and dance.
Even at the lowest moments, in my core of my heart, I always believed he would be okay. Even when the doctors were telling me something different, I would look at them and I would say, "But you don't know my husband. You don't know my Bob. He's a fighter, and he's smart, and he wants to live." And I think they thought I was all crazy. But now I can say, I was right.
Let's give a real osteopathic welcome to a real-life Wonder Woman, Lee Woodruff.
a little bit of, it needs some polishing, I think, but that's very sweet. I have so many things to tell you, and I'm going to try to do so in a timely manner. I know this is the last day of your convention, and I thought it was wonderful. We did sort of a pre-convention call with folks about, it's always a kind of a standard, just want to make sure you know who the audience is and who you'll be speaking to, and it's always helpful for the speaker. And everybody just wanted to make sure I knew what a DO was. And I said, you bet I do, because there have been so many wonderful DOs that have come into and out of my life, and I told the story on the conference call of our very first TV market, Redding, California, when Bob had first become, he left the law. I actually married a lawyer and ended up married to a journalist. And his very first market was up in this small Northern California town, and we had left his six-figure salary in the dust. We were making $12,000 a year. I hung out my shingle as a writer, and we moved our 2-month-old son, who's now 21, up to California. And lo and behold, who do I run into but one of my kind of crushes from high school, a man named Steve Steele, who is a DO here in Southern California. And he became our sort of best buddy there with his now wife, Lynn Ann. And I remember he would show up after work with his hospital badge on, and it would say, Steele, DO. So of course his nickname became Steele Do. And to this day, he is always Steele Do and will be always Steele Do. What I learned then through Steve was not only that he had an amazing ability to crack my neck when I would be awake, and I miss him to this day for that, was that the way that he approached medicine was the way that I wanted to see medicine approached. It was a holistic, family-focused way that allowed for the possibility of some of the things that I firmly believe in and have witnessed through our own journey as a family. Those are things like the possibility of things beyond medical explanation and scientific explanation. The ability to parse hope in situations where it may not seem like there is hope. The ability to allow the M word into the room. And by that I mean miracle. And whether or not you have faith or come from a place of faith, a miracle doesn't have to be something that comes from God. A miracle can just be a catch-all for all of those things that we witness that we can't explain. Because I think that the people I admire and respect the most are the ones who admit they don't have all the answers. That there are things that we're probably never going to figure out, and it's okay to say that. One of the things that I want more than anything to be able to teach my children is that the worst thing you can do is pretend to have all the answers. That one of the best answers is, I don't know the answer to your question, but I'll do whatever I can to find out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on our exact story today. It was the video does the job of sort of setting that up, but we were just a family like every other family. Bob had reached the apex of his career when he was anointed as the anchor for World News, and then just a few short weeks later, 6 weeks to be exact, he was back in Iraq for I think what was his 9th time. He had been embedded there with the Marines during the invasion. He had come back very suddenly when our good friend and fellow journalist David with NBC died from a deep vein thrombosis. And Bob came back despite the protestations of his bosses at ABC News so that he could be there for David's little girls, so that he could be there for our children, and then so he could, in his words to me, show them that life does go on. And that was sort of my children's first real brush with someone that they knew, that they considered sort of a de facto uncle, passing away. We're often and always, continually, especially what you do, reminded of those in an instant moments. And I was telling Deirdre and some of the folks in the executive committee that this morning I woke up to a phone call from my sister and a very good friend who we just had hamburgers with on this president on the Columbus Day weekend, perished last night in a helicopter crash. And so I had to call each of my older children to let them know that this morning and wanted them to hear it from me. And it was eerily reminiscent of what it must have been like for them inside 6 years ago when I told them the news of Disney World, when I got the phone call about my answer is, I don't know. I won't ask them yet. It's still very much a scab, I think, and there will be some Thanksgiving where we sit around and I'll say to them, I'm sure, okay, so how was that for you? What was that like? But right now they look good, they smell good, they feel good, they act good, everything's okay. And that's not a scab I want to pick. Their dad is walking, talking, working, traveling around the world. Their dad is really a living miracle. And so much of that miracle